Let's then start with the presentation about the Scopy regulations. First of all, the idea of the meeting is then to present the RCPs for this March meeting, and then having a little bit of time for discussion of the ones that the viewers at the time are more interested to discuss. So we're going through them through the order specified on the categories. To give this webinar, it's me, the Scopy for Europe, Diogo, and Gabriel. Gabriel, introduce yourself.
Hello guys, I'm Gabriel Ortez. I'm the Scopy Regional Assistant for Americas, and hello.
Okay, so I'm going to present this first presentation. Just focus on the RCPs that goes from the category C and B, the most important ones, and then we will go through the A, X, and Y. So just so you can understand the structure. So this year we have a huge amount of proposals, but some of them are really easy and not difficult to understand. And that's why we made this structure in categories, similar to one applied in SCORI, in order to make it easier for us to vote things in block and don't lose a lot of times on the voting procedure. So as you can see, we divided in 5 categories, being C, B, and A, an order by the importance. So C and B are major and intermediate changes and will be voted separately or in small groups. And you have category A, which are minor changes that we will vote on block because there is not a lot of changes that will create a lot of discussion. And then C and Y are more structural changes to the document. So we have the gender neutral language on X and grammatical changes. And then on Y, we have addition and suppression of abbreviations in order to make the document more structured in terms of use of all the abbreviations we use in Scopy. Okay. Like it's written, like I said before, it's organized by the structure, and then inside each of the categories, it's organized by the order of the document itself. So starting with category C, we have 8 proposals, being the first one, changing the text regarding the PRET, that it's now on chapter 6, procedures of Scopy meetings in 6.4. So taking consideration that this March meeting, there's going to be a proposal for new PRET regulations that align with the IOGs. What this proposal is about is changing the text right now related on 6.4. 6.4.1 saying PRETs are regulated by the PRET regulations, and then the regulations itself will be annexed in the end of the document if the document is approved, which is another proposal that we'll talk afterwards. With this proposal, we want to add this 6.4.1 and removing the remaining information on this topic. Like I said, in order to align this with the IOGs, most of the deadlines. Regarding proposal C2, which can be one of the most discussable, and it has a similar proposal from one of the NMOs. We have proposal, this one from the Scopy IT. And this proposal, basically we have a topic, it's 0.723 regarding the mandatory, okay, when can you send an AF back regarding capacity reasons? So normally, as you already know, point A still states the 10 weeks before, so the proposal for the change in point 8 is majorly grammatical, and to state that it's important to send it via mail to the NEO when sending it back. And then the point B has the most changes, and the changes are a little bit complicated. So basically, looking at the change done in the August meeting, where it was introduced that was needed 10% bilateral contract spots. So you need to send a warning of 10% bilateral contract spots, no unilateral contract spots, or no spots left overall. This was what's mandatory to send an AF back, but the first change, which is changing this for 20%, it's based on the fact that this year a lot of NMOs, taking into consideration that percentages are a little bit different. Some NMOs 10% means 3 spots and other means 30. The idea of putting it to 20 is to get a little bit more margin for some NMOs to send it 2 mails separated, because this year we had a lot of closed up mails. So in this matter, we hope to create a little bit more margin between both. And then the second problem with this, and this is what leads to this proposal, mostly is that if you read it like it's right now, technically you are mandated to send the overall mail before sending any AF back. What is the problem with this? For example, if you already don't have any unilateral contract spots, imagine this, you can't send an AF back without sending the overall mail. For some NMOs, they finish the unilateral spots because they have this organizing structure between bilaterals and unilateral spots. So they finish the unilaterals really soon, like when they still have like 50% bilaterals. And if you state that it's mandatory to send the overall mail before sending an AF back, even if unilateral, that means that the problem that we thought we resolved by adding this differentiation between bilateral and unilateral still exists, because you always need for the overall mail to send an AF back because of capacity reasons. So the proposal itself states that it's the 20%, no unilateral contracts, this for July and August, and then you have to say like it was stated before, all the other months, only overall, no spots left overall, unilateral and bilateral. This proposal, this is what I just explained. This proposal goes alongside this one, which is adding afterwards that it's mandatory for the hosting NEO to always warn, besides the capacity warning stated on the previous regulation, when they don't have no spots overall for unilateral or bilateral. So this way, it's still mandatory to send always the no spots left overall. But the thing is that it's not mandatory to send an AF back to send this warning. This is relevant because normally when you send an AF back, you already sent the full capacity. So what's mandatory and what's relevant for the other news to be aware and actually can act and send their AFs in short time, it's the 10%. So this way, it's not mandatory to send the overall, and it's possible to send an AF back in terms of the unilateral ones or bilateral ones, which one you finish first, before sending the no spots overall. So this is majorly, it's kind of a difficult proposal. So in the end, if you have any question, we can go through it. Regarding proposal C4, this proposal is for IMCC from IMCC Denmark. I don't think we have someone for IMCC Denmark here. So take in consideration that the proposal wants to add on the chapter 7 as proposal 729, like to be the last point on chapter 7, informations about deadlines for answering mails by the NEOs. So I will read the proposal. There was nothing, and now the proposal is to add NEOs must reply to any email sent by another national officer within 14 days in case the deadline is not set in the mail. The minimum deadline expected can be no shorter than 48 hours. If due to exams or personal reason it is not possible to fulfill this regulation, it is mandatory to send a mail or set an automatic response about the expected time for an answer to be sent. If a NEO does not fulfill this regulation, the respective RAs should be contacted. Consistently unresponsive NEOs will be subject to investigation by SCOPE-IT and measures will be taken at the discretion of SCOPE-IT. Yeah, this is what's proposed, and the reason is the proposers of the suggestion have experienced a long waiting time for answers on emails to other NEOs are getting no answer at all. This has resulted in lesser mental health and motivation and financial loss to the NMO due to various late answers where the deadline had passed in the meantime. We propose this to emphasize the importance of answering mails and to facilitate the work between the NEOs. As mails are our main communication channel, a NEO should be aware of the responsive to mails from other NEOs. Okay, so this is the proposal from IMCC Denmark. It's proposal C4, and it has, like I said, deadlines for answering mails. Regarding proposal C5, so like I said, this is organized by what was proposed. So it's basically the same, another proposal for the capacity reasons, but it's suggested to add a 0.7.729, and it states the following. So announced through the NEO server when the NMO has reached 30% of bilateral contract spots, 10% of bilateral contract spots, no unilateral contract spots, and no spots left overall. This warning is mandatory for July and August. For all the months except July and August, which are listed on their exchange conditions, they need to warn the NEOs through the server when they have 10% of bilateral or unilateral contract spots and no spots left overall. The explanation from Romania: over the past years, the situation of the NMOs getting full really fast for the peak month, usually July and August, got really worse. Now we have NMOs that announce in December or even earlier that they are already full for summer months of next season. As a result, we highly believe it's time for better regulation on this topic. By having this first announcement at 30% of spots left, we leave enough time for students to prepare less documents and send the AF in time, or just for us to have a bit extra time to verify the last bits of AFs that we still have to check before sending. Moreover, having more announcements through the server regarding capacity, it will be helpful for us NEOs to keep track of them and not actually be able to see them, as this year happened that 10% of spots and no spots left mail were sent 2-3 hours apart. So it's actually a regulation proposed by one of the NMOs that tries to go partially against what was stated on the SCOPE-IT. So regarding the amendments proposed, these two proposals might need to be voted in alternative. at least regarding the male percentages. So like we already said in the mails, it's really important that you give your opinions on the shared discussion document about these two proposals, because it's a big change in terms of our work throughout the terms. So these two proposals are one to keep in mind and to give more attention, okay? C6 goes a little bit to the change I already talked about for the spread regulations. So in this case, it's the proposal of PRET regulations itself. This proposal is joint with SCORI and is to add this specific PRET regulations. You can go through that on the link that it's also shared on the NEO summary document and on the shared discussion document. And if you have any comment to it, also contact and leave your comments on the document, okay? The proposal itself on the meeting will be to adopt it, and then to adopt it into in the regulations as an annex. So to accept the regulations itself. C7. So as you know from in the last August meeting, NMOs gave the mandate to FMSA team of officials to extend all strategies to add annex until 2021. So this means that, as you know, Skopje strategic plan finished on 2019. There was done an evaluation that was presented in the August meeting, and now in order to, like it was stated, the NMOs want all the strategic plans to be aligned in FMSA, and to do that, it was proposed to the ITs that it was proposed an extension until 2021 in the form of an annex. So first of all, it's to vote if everyone is comfortable with the extension of the Skopje strategic plan. So if we are in favor of extending this, because it was a mandate, but we want to make this officially, so we need to vote the extension of the strategic plan itself. And following to this proposal, it's the adoption of the strategic plan itself that was already shared with you, a proposal that some NEOs already left some comments. They will be answered before and also in the first day of the March meeting, Skopje sessions, there will be a discussion focused on the strategic plan, and we can discuss the strategic plan annex there if some questions remain. However, it's really important that you read it before, so we can save time and focus more on the discussion of the document and not on the presentation of its content. So this finishes category C. Category B. Category B, the first proposal is just to add chapter 0 with abbreviations for the document. The abbreviations occurred throughout the document, but the scope of regulations itself didn't add any abbreviation document. So this is proposal B1. Proposal B2, which will be voted in a small group with B13, B18, B19, and B22, are about changing the previous text that was stated that the only documents changed exchange to the database were this, and was students evaluation form all in one block. And with this proposal is to divide it in pre-evaluation form and post-evaluation form. Regarding B3, B3 is literally, this was a little bit confusing, this proposal, because 2.5 stated that the information was stated in 7.1.15, and 7.1.15 got it back to 1.2.5. So the information was not in 7.1.15, was in 1.2.5. So it's just to align the document and to make it more easily understandable for the reader. Regarding B4, same thing, it was a mistake. It's not 11.3.3, doesn't exist, so it's 11.3. So it's just to correct this mistake. B5, so B5, majorly, all the other, on members, there's a part regarding the submissions of the NEO reports and all the other deadlines. And in this case, it was not defined the deadlines itself. So basically, it's to give the same structure. So it was written before the submission of the NEO report within the NMO report prior to each FMSAGA. If the NMO president fails to submit the NMO report, or if the NEO report is missing, the NEO has to be informed by the Skopje director, and needs to be, therefore the NEO still has the chance to send a NEO report to the Skopje director within 2 weeks prior to each FMSAGA. The idea, since this structure is not actually, right now the NEO report, it's not fully part of the NMO report, it's a different document, so it doesn't make sense that the regulation states it's how connected they are. So the idea is to break that apart, and then stating the deadlines, so that the submission should be before the 1st of February for March meeting and July 1st for August meeting, and then that it will be informed by the regional assistant and Skopje director in case it was not submitted on time before the deadline. It's similar to this. B6, it's kind of also adding another more specific deadline to this part. It says that was after the 1st of February, but it was not defined until when. Can you update the database signature and stamp? So this proposal is just to add a deadline to make it more regulated, this part. Regarding proposal B7, B7 is just regarding the regulations for the director of Scopy. It's to focus the structure of the reports, because before we had A, B for achievements and obstacles, then plans for the upcoming period, and ongoing activities, working groups, and who the responsible persons are. So the idea is to change the point D to a point C and change the order. So it's going to be meetings attended during the mentioned period when the report is written, and then plans for the upcoming period. So it's a small change, but they will consider it makes the reports or the information about the reports on the regulations more accurate to the reality that we do right now. In proposal B8, it's about the outcomes of the sessions. It's about the August meeting and March meeting results of the Scopy sessions. This is what it's mandatory to come on a document after, like as a result of the Scopy sessions, and it was stated small working group outcomes. Since small working groups are not a mandatory thing to talk about during the meetings itself, we decided to put outcomes of the sessions if applicable. So depending on which sessions we are having or not, so it makes it more broad and possible and more mandatory to share other outcomes of other sessions that are relevant and have more content than just specifically the small working groups. In this case, it's again setting better deadlines and cutting the part referring that the new report is part of the NMO report, just to align it. B10, it's just literally to align the Scopy regulations with the reality, because on the Scopy regulations stated that it was mandatory to publish late CA statistics every month, which we don't have structure to have that information every month. What we do is every time for the GA is having that information collected alongside the new reports. So it's basically stating this instead of stating that it's going to be done every month. Here, it's about the NMOs under investigation for loss of activity. Was said that the reports just need to be shared before the first week prior to the beginning of August meeting. And with this proposal, we want to make it also mandatory to change if there's any LMO under investigation to be mandatory also for March meeting. So there can be a report about how the situation is, and decisions can be taken throughout the year, not only in the August meeting. This is to align and give more information about how should a Scopy international team member write their own reports. So it's literally the same, kind of the same topics on the scope that was previously on the Scopy director one, but added, it didn't exist, this part precisely, so it's to add it on 433C and add this part regarding this, the structure of the report. Like I said before, the B13 will be voted alongside with these proposals, and it's also to break the student evaluation form to pre-EF and post-EF. B14, so B14, it's basically because, as you can read it on proposal 714, which states what is mandatory for the NMOs to provide to an incoming student, it stated that, although it states here that students on unilateral actions must be provided with the same condition upon payment of the unilateral fee as a bilateral one, it was stated on A and B, technically that NEOs are only mandated to provide lodging and boarding free of charge on bilateral basis. And it's a bit weird because technically by reading this without reading the point on top, it kind of states that NEOs are only mandatory. If it's an unilateral incoming, they don't need mandatorily to give boarding or lodging. So this is literally to make it more accurate to reality and just make it comply with the sentence above. So it's literally not stating unilateral, bilateral. It's what a reality for both bilaterals and unilaterals, taking into consideration that they paid the fees necessary. Regarding the topics mandatory, like the boarding, lodging, clerkship, all the topics required to be provided by the hosting NMO. It's just to state that failing with one of them, of these three, it's enough for a student to terminate his exchange because it just said not fulfilling the conditions, and this way kind of meant that it was needed to fail with the three of them. when failing with one of them is already a reason for a student to terminate his own exchange. So this is the proposal. Regarding B16, it was because it was stated that it can be changed after the contract fair. Regarding the unilateral contract fee and its breakdown should be stated in the exchange conditions. It cannot be changed after the contract fair. In case of unforeseen circumstances, an agreement can be made with the NEO out. Literally, this is just to make the document more uniform. We don't use the terms NEO out and NEO in throughout the document. We use the terms hosting NEO or sending NEO because not all NMOs can call themselves NEO out or not. So the idea here is literally change the way it's written to a more thing that makes more sense on the regulations we present. So it's saying that it's in that agreement between the NEOs. B17, it's again that discussion about the bilateral basis that was stated before. It's about reimbursing travel expenses in case there's a cancellation or a late CA and everything. So literally in this case, it's something that it's not only mandatory for bilateral basis, so it's to make that uniform. B18 alongside B2 and B13 we already talked, it's also to state that in this case it's mandatory to fill the pre and post EF instead of only the evaluation form, because it's not the reality right now since we have both. B19 also said that the exchanges should complete the pre-EF on the moment of filling the CC and the post-EF when it becomes available during the final week of their clerkship. So it's again making a clear differentiation between pre-EF and post-EF. In this case, so proposal B20 will be voted alongside with B21, and basically these two proposals talk about specify that it's possible in case of technical issues, like it was seen this year with problems with the database, to send AFs and CODs via mail when to the respective NEO within the same deadline. So if you have a problem submitting AFs and CODs, the regulation said that everything needed to be sent to the database. And with this proposal, basically we open the possibility of, if there's technical issues, so if it's something, it's not only if I want to send through mail today, if there's a reasonable technical issue on the database, you can always send it through mail, but warning the respective NEO about it and see if everyone is comfortable, but not this way is not against the regulations. And the same thing for the CCAs and CCs in case there's a huge problem on that time and not the time there was this year. B22, again, the separation between pre-EF and post-EF. B23, basically it's incorrect. You said it was written that any misuse of the CA will result in its rejection. In such a situation, the sending NEO, so the one that receives the CA, shall inform the hosting NEO about the situation. It was saying the NEO incoming, but the NEO incoming is the one that actually provides the CA. So it shouldn't be this one, the one warning. So it should be only the sending NEO. So it's to cut this out to make it correct. B24. Okay, B24 is because last year with the addition of the Scopy Strategic Plan chapter, with that addition, well, there was one more chapter, and so the previous chapter 13 made reference to chapter 12, and the reality is that now that this chapter 13, so this reference, the reference 12.3 on proposal 13.4 was wrong. Now it's 13.3, so it's just to correct it. It's not a big change, just to make sure that it's not referring to something that is not what it's supposed to. Again, B25 in proposal, like it's written on the explanation on regulation 13.5, there's a reference to an annex 1, and this annex 1 doesn't exist in the Scopy regulations. So it's probably when it was voted, I think last March meeting, when preparing the document, the annex was not added. So in this case, the proposal is to add the annex because to change the regulations and it needs to be proposed. So it's basically the proposal is to add the maze, the voting maze, because that's what's referring in how the voting procedures work in Scopy. Okay, with this we finish category C and B, and it leaves categories A, X, and Y. I will now pass to the news summary to follow up with the discussion of the document. Okay, so just quickly, I will go to category A. Most of the proposals in these categories are really repetitive, so I will just go through them so you understand. So basically, proposal A1 states that makes a change between Scopy meeting and Scopy official meeting. So defined by the regulations, it's stating that a Scopy meeting is every gathering of delegates that has Scopy sessions. However, votings don't happen in all Scopy meetings because, for example, Neonari Weekend is stated as a Scopy meeting and we don't vote things on Neonari Weekend, for example. But it's also stated on that chapter that votings only happen in official Scopy meetings. So the idea is to uniform, there's a lot of proposals to add official before Scopy meeting throughout the document to make sure that we're always referring to Scopy sessions as an IFMSA GA and not any Scopy meeting, okay? So most of the proposals regarding this is stating official, and in this case, it specifies its Scopy sessions. So this is one of the changes that you will see alongside chapter A. Another thing in this case, since we don't use this definition to refer to the Neo server and the Scopy server, it's to change this to the mailing list Neo server and Scopy server just to align with what are the terms we use. Same thing with the IFMSA Exchange database, because alongside the document, if you go through all the Scopy regulations from post AM19, you see that a huge number of names are used to refer to the IFMSA database or platform, or even the link from the ifmsa.org website. So the idea, also a lot of proposals throughout A, it's to change all of them to IFMSA Exchange database or database. So it's uniform and everyone knows what we're talking about. Also, sometimes it was referred as Scopy database, since it's something that is not only for Scopy. We don't consider it was this correct name. So it's going to be, the proposal is to change everything to IFMSA Exchange database. Proposal A4, it's also IFMSA Exchange database, A5 as well, A6 as well, A7. It's just to organize, because Scope International Assistance, this was ordered in hierarchical way, and the international assistants were after exchange students, so it's just to order it. A8, it's again Exchange database. A9, again Exchange database. A10, it's like I said to you, the document always refers to hosting NMO and sending NMO. In this case, sometimes it appears receiving NMO. So in order to make it similar throughout the whole document, it was decided to define it as hosting, and in this case, changing receiving to hosting. And the same thing will happen with sending in another proposal. Again, official, like I explained to you before, IFMSA Exchange database, IFMSA Exchange database. Here was just to make the list uniform. All of them at Scopy Director, Scopy International Assistance, so it's just to add Scopy Regional Assistance. Small to uniform the document. It's not a big change. A15 again, IFMSA Exchange database. 16 IFMSA Exchange database. 17 as well. 18 as well. 19 it's again changing receiving to hosting. 20 again the IFMSA Exchange database change. In this case, this is just specifically to March meetings, so it's to change. It was written before Scopy sessions during IFMSA General Assemblies, but this is just about March meeting. It's to change specifically to March meeting on points 5 to 14. Same thing on the August meeting on point 5 to 14. A23, it's just to make clear that every time we refer to the Neo server, we say Neo server, so it's to change Neo mailing list to Neo server, because the term we use generally. Again, the official meeting, and this is just throughout the same regulation, there was a lot of times that was needed to add official Scopy meetings. Same thing with A25, A26, adding the Neo server instead of Neo mailing list. A27, official Scopy meeting. A28, this was a mistake on the document because it says exchange session and it was referring to exchange season. So it's just a mistake on the text, because it says that NMO can be sanctioned at the next contract by 10% reduction of its signed units in previous exchange session. Like it was exchange season, so just to correct this. A29, exchange database. A30 is again not the hosting, but in this kind the sending, because it was saying outgoing NMO, so it's just to make it uniform. A31, the hosting change. In this case, just to make always clear that when referring to 2/3, that it appears 2/3, just to make it uniform every time we refer to the percentages of the majorities. Hosting again. In this case, just it was referring terms, IFMSA terms and conditions, and that's not what we filled. What we fill is IFMSA Scopy terms and conditions. So it's just to make it clear. And in this case, it's the change of both. So add Scopy on this. Again, the change on IFMSA Exchange database. Here, the Scopy regulations are considered the core of IFMSA Scopy We never refer to our standing committee as FMSA Scopy, so it's just to keep the core of Scopy, and every NMO must follow the regulations, so it's just to make it uniform. A37, adding the official. A38, again, the 2/3 explanation majority to make the document more clear for the reader. The Neo server change, in this case, just to add the unofficial again. The strategic plan, all the topic was called strategic plan, and like it was already proposed on when talking about the Scopy terms and conditions and other topics throughout the regulations. It's just to add Scopy before, so in this case, it's specifically about the Scopy strategic plan. And this is all some changes that we can see throughout here. Official Scopy meeting again, the 2/3 majority, Scopy strategic plan, the official meeting, the 2/3 majority, and this finishes category A. Like stated before, category A will be voted on block, so all of these 47 proposals will be, if there's nothing against it, voted in one vote. Like we vote all the 47 in one block on the meeting, okay? Proposals from category X have the gender neutral and grammatical changes. Some of them are proposed by CFGH UK, and the Scopy IT also have some gender neutral changes to add. So if you go through all the proposals, you will see majorly changes like he or she today. This was just to make the sentence more clear, because the sentence before said valid for the following August meeting or current March meeting exchange season. So in this case, it's just to make the sentence more clear for the following or current exchange season, respectively presented at March meeting or August meeting or March meeting. So it's just to make the sentence more clear for the reader. X3 is again a proposal about gender neutral. X4, it's proposal about gender neutral. In this case, it's just because the sentence makes more sense written standing committee than Scopy. So it's just a grammatical change, a small grammatical change in this case. X6 is referring to the gender neutral language. X7 as well. X8, it's just because it was incorrect, the English written text here, so it's a grammatical change. X9, gender neutral. X10, gender neutral as well. X11, it's also a small grammatical change because it was written not in the correct way. X12, again, gender neutral. X13, it was a mistake, like small grammatical mistake in what we refer when we refer to Scopy sessions. X14, also grammatical change. X15, gender neutral. X16, it's basically to uniform the Scopy IT, because normally we refer Scopy IT without the slash, and also the same thing with the Scopy D. So it's just to make it uniform always throughout the document. So in this case, it's that. In this case, it was a mistake in English. It's not as, it's av. X18, a small change in grammatical, it was a grammatical mistake. X19, it's a lot of gender neutral changes proposed by CFGH. X20, again, just a change in the grammatical to make it more understandable, the topic, and more mandatory in this case because of the must instead of desire, must be sent back. Just a small grammatical change. X21, also to make it more correct in terms of English. X22, same. X23, also a small change in terms of text. X24, gender neutral. X25, gender neutral. X26, again, a small grammatical change. X27, it's just a small grammatical change in order to make it more correct. X28 is, X28 is gender neutral. X29 was because it was not clear what was referred here. So this tries to make it more clear regarding the what was explained here, and also a small mistake in English. It was said proceeds and it proceeds. X30, again, correction of the English. And then here, it's just correction of the terms we used in the other grammatical changes on the sentence. And this finishes chapter X. And this chapter X also, as chapter A, will be voted on block. So it will be only voted in one group if no one is against it. And this 31 proposals will be voted only with one vote in the Scopy sessions. Going to the last category. This category is literally some changes that are really short and easy to go by. So most of them are changes in abbreviation. So as stated in English grammatic, every time you refer to an abbreviation in the document, you should use it once and refer to it, and then from that moment on, you should only use the abbreviation. Throughout these proposals, you can see that some words we decided not to do it like that. For example, Scopy Director, Regional Assistant, positions of the EB and TO of IFMSA, exchange conditions itself, not using the term EC. So we decided a few that we don't consider are necessary to be shortened because it's make the reading more difficult. But some of them we decided to make it like this. So first time it appears, putting all extents and abbreviation and continuing like this. So first proposal, it's the first time IFMSA appears and it's writing in extents what is IFMSA and putting between brackets. All of this is also complied in the abbreviations list. That was proposal B1, okay? So B2 is using GA instead of General Assembly. So it's the first time a General Assembly is referred to, so putting GA. B, like I said to you, it's the first time Scopy Director appears, so we are referencing to Scopy D, but then from this moment on, we will always refer to Scopy Director to make it more clear, because there was a decision regarding all the positions of the international team and IFMSA. Regarding Y4, yeah, was the first time National Exchange Officers appear, so making reference to NEO. Y5 GA, so from this moment on, it's changing everything that says General Assembly to GA. Also with email, was the first time electronic email appears, so putting email, and that from moment on, every time like this. Here, just making a reference, it's an enumeration of the positions, so making sure that everyone is comfortable with the abbreviations used throughout the document when searching for who's are the responsibles on the Scopy database in this case. Y8, so it was the first time local committees appeared, so putting LCs. Standing committee, this case was a reference to SCORI, so first time SCORI appeared, so making explanation what it is by extension and then putting an abbreviation. In this case, like I said to you, it didn't exist a time where exchange conditions were explicitly said what was the abbreviation. And we also decided that it was better to keep it always as exchange conditions because it's not a very used term in our work. So it's better to keep it extents for partially readings of the document to be more clear. Okay, in this case, it's just to keep LC because we already said what it is. Regional assistant to be written fully, Scopy Director as well, regional assistant, international team will be referred as IT. Throughout the document was the first time referred, GA, IT. So it's literally changing the way it's written to make the document more uniform and clear. So in this case, GA, SCORI D was the first time it appeared, so to make a reference to SCORI D, GAs, year stating regional assistant, year changing international team to IT, and then making reference again to the term Scopy D, because like I said to you, we never refer to with a small break. Y23, putting by extents regional assistants. Regional meetings also using the abbreviation, GAs, and following on with regional assistants. A27 is just a change of the IT. Y28 is again IT. I29, invitation letters. So it was already shared before throughout the document. What is the definition of invitation letter? So in this case, since it was already done, we just change it to the abbreviation. Y30, card of documents and AFs. In this case, was by extents, and since AFs is like this, it's to make it uniform. It goes like this throughout. CODs and GAs, invitation letters, contract forms, in this case, using the term CF. CFs and Scopy certificates, in this case, GAs, Scopy IT as well in the 38. In the 39, it's just changing national exchange officers to NEOs. Here, putting by extension exchange conditions. Here, stating Scopy Director and IT. Contract form. Here, just making sure that it's not referring all the terms again, so putting AF, CA, and COD. I44, it's a small change again for the CF. A45, regional assistant. A46, COD, AFs, and COD again, just to make it with the abbreviations. A47, again, changing the abbreviation of card of documents. Y48, putting by extents exchange conditions. Y49, putting CA. Y50, CF, Y51, COD. So all of this goes like this throughout the remaining proposal, like exchange conditions. Here, it was user reference, but like I said, it was a decision to keep all the positions of FMSA by extents. So it was a reference to the Vice President for Finances. So we're just going to keep it always refer fully because just 2 or 3 times it's referred throughout the document. Y54, so in this case, it's to make this clear. So all the times it states Vice President for Finances. It's just on the scope administration fee chapter that it appears. Then here putting GA, Y56, invitation letter, Y57, GA, Y58, GA again, Y59, putting again GA in this part. Here, IT. Here it's just cutting because it already said August meeting and we always refer to August meeting, March meeting, and when not using neither of these terms, GA. So in this case, cutting General Assembly and putting August meeting and not AM and MM because we don't use these terms throughout the document. Y62 IT, Y63 IT as well, and Y64 putting GA. And with this, chapter Y is also finished. And this chapter, as chapter A and chapter X, will be voted in block. Okay, so all the 64 proposals for this small abbreviation changes will be voted in one block. If no one is against it of the NEOs, it will be asked before the voting. But it's proposed that the voting is done in block, so we don't have to vote all of this one by one, since most of them are really similar and doesn't make a lot of changes in the document. It's just if you agree with one, you agree with all of them. So in this case, this is what's decided for this. So with this, we just went through all the regulations. I don't know if there's some questions. Okay, so there's a question here from Emma, which says, I would appreciate it so much if you guys could make one document for each category. The document is kind of hard to handle. We can make one per each category. Like in the beginning of both documents, you have the index, and the index, if you press it, goes straight to the regulation itself on that in the beginning. So you can use it through here, but if all of you prefer a separate document per category, we can make it. Because probably it's difficult to scroll it because it's a lot of pages and some computers might not handle it. Yes. I don't know if there's any specific change. People in the Zoom call that enter through Zoom can actually turn down their mics and they can put direct questions. But people who are hearing from Facebook sharing, they can't talk directly. So I don't know, Gabriel, you know if there's someone commenting there, some questions?
Yeah, I will see if someone has it here in Facebook, but so far they're
Okay. I don't know. Okay, Emma, now you can talk if you want to say something.
Okay, am I talking?
Yes.
Oh, great. Okay, is this discussion time?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed it is.
Great. I was thinking about B20 and B21.
Okay.
Because I kind of think it's a good idea with the thing about sending emails when the database is not working.
Okay, we are there.
But the thing is that if you have a lot of students, like some of the big NMOs, like Brazil or Italy, maybe they think it's a lot of work. So I don't know if it's possible to make an amendment about it's enough to write an email and reserve a spot, or if that's a bad idea or anything. What are your thoughts about that?
Okay, I'm going to give my personal opinion. I think it's not impossible. The problem is that the way you're suggesting it, it means that if the problem continues for a lot of time, the deadlines are going to be passed. That's the only problem. Because
yes,
it's always like better if we can just send a mail saying save a spot and then I will send it. But sometimes the problem might be huge. But again, it's possible. Like if you want to add the amendment, you can start a discussion on the shared document, comment that, and then probably it will be one of the discussions. Because I don't know, Gabriel, do you have any?
I guess that it is possible. Indeed, it is a lot of work, but I guess that at the end you really need the card of acceptance, like the template one. That is like the most legal part, and every student needs the CA for asking permission on the university or whatever they need to do. So at the end, it should be mandatory to send the CA. Yeah.
But
DAF and CLDs. But at the end, it is possible.
but maybe it's we have these European
the
data
GDPR.
protection guidelines, something, and I think that it's not so good to send emails with the personal information. So maybe it would be easier as well as better due to these regulations that we make a folder in Google Drive where you can upload the documents. So you can make a folder per student, and then you can share this
The link.
folder between the two neos, so that you have all of the things in another database, so to say, until the real database is working.
It's possible. I don't. It's more difficult to make the amendment regarding that specifically, but it's possible. Like,
Yeah. Stefan is saying big NMOs have Neo assistants and Leos, and they can send a Google Drive link to the student and ask them to upload it.
Okay.
Yeah, it also makes sense, but this will make like a really, like we're going back on time, you know, like that's the way we did it like 10 years ago. But if the database doesn't work, it makes sense.
No. Yeah, I think it's a valid amendment. Like, I don't know if you have any idea of text, like written, or what do you think should be added to make it more compliable with that? It doesn't need to be now, but if you want to.
Yeah, I can make the amendment, and then I can write you.
Yeah, write it.
Yeah, because I just thought about it like 20 minutes ago.
Okay.
So I didn't think like a specific way to write it. So yeah, okay. I'll do that tomorrow.
Okay. I forgot to say something at the end of the presentation, which is about exactly the amendments. So if you want to send any amendment, we suggested that we do it before the GA, if possible. And you just have to send it with it's also defined on the first page of the NEO summary and the shared discussion document, how to do it. But also at the GA, try to send it as soon as possible. Like if you want to, since it's going to be voted on day 3, if you have something that you want, no, it's going to be voted afterwards. So if you want something to be voted or added, make time for the other news to check your amendment, and don't shout it only on the plenary. Probably it will help. Just that. Now we can come back. Okay, Gabriel, was there anything else from Facebook?
No.
No?
No.
Okay.
So everything is fine. Great job.
Okay, so if you have any question, you can directly contact us, your regional assistant, or...
Yes.
Okay, from now on, probably the scope director will be a little bit difficult because she's already in the TOM, in the GA. So, but if you need something, contact your regional assistants, and we will try to clarify better or even discuss amendments with you if you have some. I really suggest you to try to, like I said before, the proposals regarding the percentages, the C and B ones are probably the ones that need more discussion. So try to have your ideas about it clearly defined, so it's better for our discussion in the GA. And yeah, if there's no more questions.
Annalisa is saying that Gmail is also a good option because, you know, at the end, personal data will be erased after a specific amount of time.
Okay. Did you heard, Emma?
So not the last sentence, but I heard the thing about how to put in the amendments.
No. It was about the Gmail. Annalisa said something about the Gmail. Can you repeat it, Gabriel? Gabriel?
Yes. Annalisa is saying that, you know, emails on Gmail, the personal data will be erased after a specific amount of time. So we can, like, if I understand if it's an email, we can like erase it at the end of the period or at the end of the season of exchanges, you know, maybe.
Okay. Did you heard it now?
Okay,
Emma?
but
Okay.
people would need to know that they have to raise it, right?
Yes.
Indeed, yes.
Okay.
Okay. I don't know. Do we have something else? I think this has a little bit of delay to Facebook, so let's wait a bit, see if no other question pops up from Facebook. There's nothing else right now. Is it, Gabriel? I don't want to change page here. Is there anything? Yes, no? Maybe? Okay.
That is no question.
Okay, if there's no more questions and no other regulation you would like to discuss.
Okay, let me see. Stefan from Swimside is saying, in the discussion file, Helmsick Neo had a nice question about the RCP proposed by FASME Romania, I remember. And the
Okay.
one from Skopje IT is not sure if I missed this part in the presentation, but how will it be voted? I guess there is the C, right?
Yeah, let's see. Like I said in the presentation, it's really difficult to vote it on alternative because I think to be voted on alternative, the proposal from Romania needs to be amended for the same spot as the one from IT. But because the proposal from Romania is to add one new regulation on 729 and not changing the proposal 723. So it's a little bit tricky because technically proposal from Romania can't be added by itself. If you add that proposal, you will need to delete 723 at certain point because it's just repeating the same information. So I actually think that proposal from Romania needs to be amended to be discussed in the same terms, or it needs to be sent with also deleting 723. But yes, technically they are two connected proposals, so they will need to be voted or broken apart and voted only the percentage parts together, or we will need to discuss this. The idea is that it needs to be voted in alternative, or we add that one or this one. But of course, if there's something that you would like to add on Romania's proposal from this proposal or vice versa, it can be proposed an amendment to each one of the proposals to make it better for the alternative voting. For example, if you consider, like the IT can consider that it's better to separate the no spots left overall from the point B, then this could be proposed to the one from Romania, and then we vote just an alternative, and the only difference would be the percentages. So the problem is that an amendment needs to be done, and probably it needs to be suggested. I don't know if Romania doesn't change it, probably the IT would suggest the amendment just to make the voting more possible.
Diogo?
Yeah. Yes.
Wouldn't it be possible for Romania to let the proposal fall and then make an amendment to your
Yes, that's the second possibility.
instead?
But it's up to Romania to let their proposal fall and make that change. But yes, if the idea is just changing the percentages, which is mostly what is stated, yes, I think it's better if they just make a proposal of amendment to ours, and then we would just vote an alternative, but inside our proposal between the amendment and not. I don't know if Stefan got answered, but I think so.
Yeah, Stefan saying, is the 30-20% thing the only difference added from Romania?
No, like I said, when presenting the proposal, the other difference, there's three differences. First is just adding a bit more information here on A, because it said before just returned at latest 10 weeks, and it was not, so it's English changes and inform the sending you via mail, which is nothing new, but it's important because sometimes people just send AFs back and don't warn anyone. And B, the major change between this and Romania's one is that we break, so we take the part saying no spots left overall from 0.723B and put it on a different, on 7232, which is proposal C3. So they are kind of connected, but they're going to be voted separately, okay? Why? Because of what's written on explanation here. It's basically, like I stated before, the way it was written, it was meant that you can only send AFs back if you sent the no spots left overall mail. And technically that's not what was intended with the proposal for dividing between bilaterals and unilaterals, because, for example, imagine I still have 50% spots overall, but I don't have unilateral spots by now, because I decided in my NMO that I only have 20 spots for unilaterals in the summer and they are all filled, and I still have 50% overall. I can't send an unilateral contract back, an AF back, unilateral, for summer, because technically to be abiding with the regulations, I need to send the no spots left overall. So this change, it still makes mandatory the no spots left overall, but it doesn't make it mandatory to send an AF back. To send the AF back, it just keeps mandatory to 20% on the no spots left overall. That, let's be honest, when the no spots left overall is changed, you can't do anything either way, because when you receive the no spots left overall, the NMO doesn't have spots already. So it's not like you can do something as NEO. So the relevant mail for you to fight back and try to get a spot for your AF is the 20% mail. So this is kind of the idea of the change, to make NEOs not go against the regulations, because personally, I was against this regulation all my term, sending unilateral AFs back for the summer, because it was not complying with the reality of my NMO and some other NMOs that sign more unilaterals.
Annalise is saying that, well, it's clarifying the past comment. It says that it's basically encrypted emails where you choose when the data inside the letter erases while you're sending it.
Ah, okay. So it's a definition from Gmail.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you can choose like the month information inside that when it's gonna be deleted. So
Okay. I'm already left, but okay. Okay.
You left?
Emma left, I think.
Oh, Emma, yes.
But okay, we will try to pass this discussion. Like, I'm trying to record the webinar, so probably it will be shared afterwards with you. That's the idea. I hope nothing failed throughout the presentation, but the idea is that it's shared afterwards with you.
Oh.
Okay. Is there any other question? I don't know if Stefan was
No.
more clear with the explanation.
I hope. Oh, there's not any more questions.
Okay. Okay, like I said before, any question you have, no problems contacting us. More information about how things will be voted or not. I will see which documents have already comments, but I will try to divide the documents between the categories, so it's easier for you to scroll the documents of the shared discussion at least. The summary probably will be all the same document, but the shared discussion, I will try to break it in category documents so you can go through it and putting your comments easier there. And yeah, that's it. I think there's nothing else. I think we're done. If no one else has questions, I think we can turn off the webinar and keep ourselves available for further questions. Okay. Bye-bye, guys. Thank you for the ones joining us now, and we will try to share the webinar with the remaining as soon as possible. Okay, bye-bye. See you in the March meeting.
They're gonna see you.